by understanding that prediction is valuable because prediction is an element of decision making. Prediction isn't decision making on its own, but prediction is a key input. It's a key part of decision making. And so that matters because we make decisions all the time. Decision making is everywhere. We make decisions about big decisions. What job should I take? When should I retire? Who should I marry? When we make smaller decisions, should I scratch my face? Should I write that down? Things like that. And so because decision making is everywhere, prediction, being an element of decision making, is really important. But what are the other aspects of decision making? We want to think through what are the cream and sugar of prediction, what becomes more valuable as prediction becomes cheaper. Then we need to really unpack decision making. And so in walking through the book, and the Prediction Machines book, and walking through this discussion, we think about it in 5 stages. So we've already talked about, you should think about recent advances in AI as a drop in the cost of prediction. Next, we're going to unpack decision making, and then we're going to talk about the tools and strategies and overall impact on society. So here's a diagram of a decision. Okay? Right now, all we have there is prediction. But there's lots of other important elements to a decision. Okay? So perhaps most obviously is a decision is not useful unless you do something with it, unless you take an action. Okay? So how should we think about the value of prediction? We should think about it as one thing that becomes more important as prediction gets cheaper. And as we make better and better decisions, if you can take an action, that becomes valuable. Okay? In some sense, these are fun but trivial. There are some actions that are just inherently better when taken by a human. Okay? So, as an economist, I'm stereotypically not a good joke teller. I recognize that. But I'm still better than a machine. Okay? So, what has been found is that when a machine recommends a joke, they actually are better at recommending what you'll find funny than when a human recommends a joke. And when you read a joke or have a machine tell a joke, you're quite likely to find it less funny than when a human tells that same joke. Okay? But at the same time, if the machine recommends the joke and you don't know the machine recommended the joke, you're going to find it funnier. So think this through. The optimal situation is the machine recommends the joke, you think it was recommended by a human, and it's told by a human. The human owns the action, but the machine makes the prediction. Okay. And in a business sense, we can go beyond things like joke telling and the arts and professional athletes and think through, well, the value of prediction. A prediction is valuable because it helps you change your behavior. It helps you make a decision. And so trying to think through where are the exciting actions, what kinds of behaviors are better because of the prediction is key. Now, in addition, other elements of decision making are kinds of data. Okay? So you have the data that you feed into the machine, and you have the data that you get over time. And so these kinds of data, whether it's input data or training data or feedback data, are incredibly valuable. They're the food that has the prediction that feeds the prediction machine. And so data is more valuable today because prediction is cheaper. How do we understand that? Well, that seems all very exciting. And you've heard, and this isn't new, right? The idea, oh, data is valuable today. It wasn't as valuable 10, 20 years ago. This is not a new mantra. What's different about thinking about the opportunity in data in the context of AI? 2 things. First, the data you have today is valuable, but the metaphor of data being the new oil is a really good one. And it's good because just like oil, once you've made your prediction, once you've used the data that you're sitting on, it doesn't have continuing value. The data you're sitting on, the training data, the input data, is not a source of sustained competitive advantage. It gives you a little bump, and you can create value out of it, then you're done. The real value in data is the ability to continue to learn and improve your machine through feedback. Okay? And so when you think about the opportunities in data in a prediction machine, it's not what you're sitting on. What you're sitting on you can get value out of, and then it's done. Google is better today because they're sitting on, for a variety of reasons, but among them, because they're sitting on billions and billions and billions of searches from other people in the past. But that's not the source of their advantage a year from now. The source of their advantage a year from now is that because they're better today, they get new people doing new searches, and those new searches help them continually improve their algorithms so they can stay ahead. Okay. Part of doing that well is investing in data, recognizing that they might have to sacrifice some profits today, or even sacrifice some customers today in order to improve their algorithms. Now, one way to think about this benefit of data is to recognize that just like humans, machines learn from experience. You can think about data as what the machine has seen and done in the past. And so machines learn from experience in a way just like humans learn from experience. And so that means you're going to be much more comfortable deploying an AI, putting the AI in the field for something that's not so risky than something that's risky. So the way to see that is, well, in employment, right? Someone's working in a fast food joint, someone's working at McDonald's. They might have a few hours of training, and then we throw them right in. And you know what? They're not going to be as good at their job as somebody who's been working there years. But the consequences of those small mistakes aren't that big. In contrast, an airline pilot, we don't let them fly until they have hours and hours and hours of experience. And the reason is because the consequences of them making a mistake are extraordinary. And so just like with human employment, we don't put a pilot in the field until they've had enough experience. We see the same trade-off. We don't put the AI in the field until they've had enough experience that they can do their job well and safely, at the cost and at the risk of not being able to get the benefit in the short run. Okay. Now, moving from prediction, so you should think about AI as a drop in the cost of prediction. And that matters because it's an input into decision making. How does this play out in terms of making it happen in your organization? The key thing to work through then is to think through the workflow for a particular job or a particular set of tasks in what you do. Map through the workflow task by task. So Goldman Sachs, in the context of an IPO, works through over 100 steps that are involved in moving from idea to actual IPO. Okay. Each of those 100 steps should be thought of as a task. And for each of those tasks, you should think through which elements of them are prediction, and if they're prediction, can they be automated or can they be made better by prediction? And so sometimes we think about it, okay, we're just going to put the prediction machine in and it's just going to replace the human. But the better way to think about it is even within every job, there's different tasks. Some of those are prediction and some of them are not. So for example, take a school bus driver. Okay? So we usually think of a school bus driver as primarily driving. That's what they spend most of their time doing, and that's what we think of as the core to the job. That is a key part of the job. But if we think through the workflow of a school bus driver, they do something else that's very important, which is protect the children. Maybe from outsiders, but especially from each other. And so if you think about it, then where's the opportunity in the workflow? Where does the prediction machine fit in the workflow of a school bus driver? Well, yes, driving over time is likely to become automated, but there still needs to be some human in the loop there figuring out the process of protecting the children from themselves. Maybe the whole job changes and the whole thing transforms, but that, even though most of the time is spent driving, it doesn't mean that the workflow is exactly the same. Okay? So we think about how do we apply